We're joined now by the chairman of the Georgia Democratic Party, Charlie Bailey, joining us now live. Charlie, thanks for making the time. Can you hear us okay today?
I can hear you. It's another week, so I'm with Zach again.
Well, Charlie, we're always grateful for you taking the time to chat with us, just as we are your Republican counterparts here in our state that folks who live and work here know very well is at the center of a lot of political action. And this week, the DNC made some news announcing on Monday that Georgia has been, Atlanta in particular, has been selected as one of a handful of finalists to host the Democratic National Convention in 2028. Charlie, what would it mean for the DNC to come to Georgia ahead of that presidential election?
Well, I think it mean a great deal. I mean, Atlanta and Georgia, and I'll say this is for Atlanta to get the Democratic National Convention, but this is really a moment for the entire state. We last hosted a Democratic National Convention in 1988. I'd say it's time to come back to Georgia. And this is the premier battleground in the South, one of the premier battlegrounds in the entire country. And so I think it's important for the Democratic Party nationally to say, hey, there's no real path to winning the White House without coming through Georgia. There's certainly not a path to controlling the United States Senate without Georgia. So to emphasize, they know how important our people are. They know that the diversity of this state, what it brings. So I think it's a no-brainer. These are all wonderful cities, but I think it's a no-brainer to come to Atlanta and Georgia and plant that flag in the South of the Democratic Party.
You call it a no-brainer. I suspect some folks in some of the other states that have cities in this finalist list may also be making a similar case. I want to rattle off the finalists here. There are 5 of them. Atlanta, of course, and then also Boston, Chicago, Denver, and Philadelphia. How do you make the pitch to national Democrats that Atlanta is better situated than all of those other locations, some of which are in pivotal swing states just like Georgia? I'm looking particularly at Philadelphia here, Pennsylvania, a key battleground state.
I love this country. I love all those cities, and so I'm not going to be commenting on their strengths or weaknesses or anything like that. They'll make their case. This is a friendly family competition. I'm going to focus on what we in Atlanta and what we in Georgia bring to the table. And in terms of the broad swath of the diverse electorate that we represent, and again, I'll just say in the South, I mean, this is the fastest growing part of the country, the South. It's where Democrats have to compete, and we are going to compete. And we're showing here in Georgia the momentum that we have, as you well know, and we talked about it a number of times, flipping those 2 PSC seats in November, flipping the Trump plus 12 state House seat in December, building the organization that'll reelect John Ossoff to the United States Senate and make gains in this year. I think we have as good a momentum or better of any state or city in the running, and we're the only one in the South. And I do think it is time for the DNC to come to the South. We have voters here that need us. They need people that actually, give a darn about working folks, and that's the Democratic Party. So it'd be good for the Democratic Party to show them that we value them.
Charlie, you talk about the South. Let's talk about another state in the South, and a state that is also getting a lot of the midterm spotlight, and it's getting it a little earlier than us. I'm talking about Texas here, where we just saw yesterday a big slate of primary elections that got a lot of national attention, including the Democratic primary race to get the party's nomination to run for Senate. I know you're familiar with this race. You saw U.S. Representative Jasmine Crockett against state legislator, Texas State Representative James Tallarico. Tallarico ended up taking the victory and getting the nomination there. A lot of people nationally looked at that race as maybe a bellwether for where the Democratic Party may be going strategically headed into these midterms. What was your takeaway from the voters' choice in Texas in that race?
Well, I have to admit, Zach, I'm not nearly the expert on Texas as I am on our great state of Georgia. I'm aware that Tallarico won the race, of course, but I don't know that I can say that what can be drawn from it. I mean, those were two really talented Democrats who raised a lot of money and waged a campaign, and so I'm confident the party will come together over there in Texas, and I think probably the biggest takeaway, as I armchair it from afar, is that Democrats in Texas, we got a candidate, or they got a candidate. I mean, in Texas, but Republicans about to go through 3 months of what might be the nastiest Senate primary in history between John Cornyn and Ken Paxton. So I think that bodes better for the Democrat running. They're not going to have to be involved in that. But not being an expert on Texas, I'm not sure I can say what we can draw from it that's applicable in other states, to be honest.
Well, then let's turn our attention back to more familiar territory here in Georgia, Charlie. I want to ask you about something that took place in the state legislature this week, and this is a piece of legislation I know you are familiar with. On Tuesday, a proposed state constitutional amendment failed. It was a House bill to get that constitutional amendment moving. The bill, if passed, would have cut property taxes. The bill required a two-thirds majority to move forward because it is a constitutional amendment. All but one Democrat in the state House voted against it, and the amendment, the bill, failed. Why did Democrats vote against that proposal?
Well, I mean, that proposal is it's a tax shift. We know what happens with it, whether it's these proposals to cut property taxes or income taxes. Inevitably, what happens is that shifts, and we've seen it in other states, that shifts to sales taxes, which disproportionately affect working folks. Those big tax cuts for income taxes, for instance, and largely property taxes go to those with a great deal of money, but then those people and folks that don't benefit as much, they end up paying a lot more in consumption taxes and sales taxes, which they hit working folks more. Also, that kind of proposal, and we heard from local governments on this, would decimate local government's ability to fund their police and to fund their schools. So, a big tax cut that rewards folks with a whole bunch of money and cutting police and schools. I mean, I'm sorry, Democrats ain't gonna be for that.
Charlie Bailey, we are out of time. We always appreciate you taking the time to share your perspective and your party's perspective with us. We look forward to another conversation with you down the line, I'm sure. Thanks for your time.
Anytime, Zach. Thank you, my friend.